Hello, welcome. Jernine Russell back with another episode of Purpose Driven Life. I am really glad to be here. I've missed you. I hope you've missed seeing me too. Every time I'm in this space, I just feel excited. I feel like there's just so much that is going to be coming from sitting here. I just had a conversation on my way here with my friend, and I was just like, I just can't wait to see what God's got in store for this podcast. And I know that it's going to be great. And all of the time and all of the energy and all of the things that I've made a lot of sacrifices for to do this, I know that it will pay off. But I'm really, really, really grateful and really blessed to have my guest sitting with me. I was just saying to her that when I first started doing this, she was on the original list of people that I've always wanted to have a conversation with, and we are finally doing it. So I will let her introduce herself.
My name's Tanya Pinnock. I work in the violence against women and girls sector. I also have my own organisation called Strength of Women that was created on the back of my own lived experiences of domestic abuse. And it was launched in the pandemic where there was an increase where survivors were trapped in their household environment, and a lot of survivors were reaching out to me. So I advocate for survivors, I mentor them, and just provide safe spaces for them to be able to heal and process their experiences.
I literally recommended you yesterday.
Oh, thank you.
Because I don't know how I end up having these conversations with people. I'd taken my son to football training, started talking to I've never met them before.
Wow.
And we ended up having it was like therapy, like literally. And this woman told me her whole story. And I said, you need to speak to this lady. Yeah. Like you inspire me.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Like, seriously, I don't think you even know. There is something that there's so much beauty, and your name, and I don't mean just the outside of you. Yeah. Your heart is really beautiful.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
And your name of your business is because the strength that you have is just amazing. But the reason that I love to have these conversations is because you, to me, are someone who is purpose driven. You're walking in your purpose. And I'm sure you know that already.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's good to be reminded.
Absolutely. It's so
and important, I really feel like, what we go through is not in vain.
Definitely.
And it's definitely, I can just see how you've just enabled your experiences to just bless and help other people. So thank you.
Thank you
if no one else tells you thank you, I'm saying thank you to you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So this podcast, I'm sure you've seen it before, but it wasn't something that I sat and thought, oh yes, I'm going to do a podcast. You know me, I'm a woman of faith. I love God. And he gives me these assignments that I'm not usually happy about. And this is one of them.
Powerful one.
And we started off, I was just at home one day, minding my own business, washing my dishes, looking at my garden. And then I just heard him say, I need you to have conversations with people about purpose. And I was like, okay, what do you mean? And then this is the kind of relationship we have. I'm the cheeky child. So I asked questions, and then he said, just use what you have. And he basically said to me to use my phone. And I started off doing it the first episode is me holding my phone for over an hour and having this kind of conversation. And then my daughter saw me and was like, Mum, why don't you get a ring light? And I was like, what's that? So we started off in my front room with the ring light, with the phone. And I had a lot of those conversations weekly with lots of different people. A lot of people are asking, oh, can they come? Because now I'm in the studio, they want to come and have a proper conversation. So I'm like, let me tick off the list first. And then those ones who were on live, I will slowly start, because there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I do want to have people back on.
That would be so amazing.
Yeah, so we will do that. But yeah, the whole point of this is to talk about purpose. And what do you think that purpose means to you?
It's a big question. I think for me, as you know, my purpose has really only started to manifest as a result of me leaving an abusive relationship, if I'm honest. Prior to that, I did have purpose, but I think my purpose was kind of diluted with other factors that were happening. So it wasn't, I didn't have a clear focus when it come to purpose. And unfortunately, as I openly have shared on many occasions, is that I was in an abusive relationship for 10 years. And as a result, after leaving, I was stabbed multiple times outside my university. And I think during my recovery period, that's when I started to get a strong sense of what I wanted to do with those experiences. As you said, nothing we experience is in vain. And I definitely feel that, God gives us tests for a reason. And my reason, as a result of my trauma is, yes, it's important to, have the space to be able to heal or start the healing journey, I guess. But during my recovery period, it was an opportunity for me to just sit still and think about what is it that I can do to change the narrative. Back then it was solely for young people. And for me, it's about prevention. It's about, educating our young people. And that's something that I started to do. So just a little bit about after I was stabbed, at the point I was at university, and I took some time out and then I returned back to university and I started to connect with professionals in Islington, which was the borough that I was living in at the time, and just talk about there were times that I was failed by, services and, systems who didn't respond to my experiences in the correct way. But I'm never about blame. I'm always about how can you use my experiences in order to shape services, in order to ensure that you give the right response to women and children. And then I started to connect with actually who is my manager now, and she's an anti-bullying coordinator and she goes into schools and delivers sessions around domestic abuse and other types of abuse. And I wanted to share my story with the young people. I think doing it in Islington, the borough where I was attacked, it's just real. Like it's not, oh, this could happen. This is actually what happened, So that's what I did. And I think that's when I started to find my purpose, because even though that I was recovering physically and psychologically, I just started to see the power in my story. And as a result of that, young people would disclose. Young people have never ever shared their experiences of growing up in an environment where they've experienced domestic abuse. So I think for me, purpose is about, the way I've used purpose is, my purpose is so much bigger than me. Yes, I'm a part of that journey, but that journey doesn't end with me. It's bigger than me in terms of, my story and what I've experienced. I want to be able to not save, but empower other women and educate not just people that have survived abuse, but also I'm about educating the community. I want to ensure that one of my passions, and it's just slowly developed over the last couple of years, is about ensuring men are part of these conversations. And that's another reason why I've collaborated with an artist over the past 3 years, and we do our Art Against VAWG exhibition, because I do acknowledge, also as the mother of sons, that these conversations are really difficult, and they're usually centered around women and girls. And we know that we can't end violence against women and girls unless the whole community responds to this issue that's impacting, so many women and girls and families. So purpose for me is about using my story, using my testimony to be able to empower and educate others, and hopefully prevent them from experiencing the trauma that me and my family have experienced.
Wow. That's a big old purpose, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a big purpose. And it takes a community to make and have lasting impact and change.
Absolutely.
And if I would say the percentage of the women and girls who experience this abuse, the perpetrators are mainly men.
Yeah.
So the conversation should involve them.
Definitely.
And it's about helping young men especially to recognise what abuse is.
Definitely.
Because sometimes I don't think they're aware that can be, or, just kind of the words that they use or the way that they speak. And, for someone who works on the other side, who works on, the criminal justice system and works with the perpetrators of this violence, it's a difficult, it's difficult work, especially as a woman,
definitely,
because they don't take kindly to being challenged about their behaviour by a woman.
Yeah.
But I guess we're all in this thing together,
Definitely.
It's not my favourite type of work, but there's something that I'm
passionate about.
I don't know if I would say I'm passionate about it. I don't want to do it, to be honest. I don't enjoy it. I find it very difficult, especially as a mum, as a, the fact that I'm a mum gives me an insight. Like I remember being a probation officer before I had the children.
Okay, yeah.
And now that I'm a mum, there's something that just, I don't know, it makes me more in tune and it makes me more insightful.
Definitely.
And I think it's owned my skill. It's, developed them and made them better, because now I'm able to assess risk to children that man poses. And when he usually minimises it and says, oh no, the kids weren't in the room.
Yeah. I know.
They don't need to be in the room.
Absolutely.
Children are so, they're so instinctual. They are able to pick up things without them actually even being present. But it's not, I don't enjoy it, but I do it and I do it well.
Yeah.
And the challenge, the way that I challenge them, they don't like me, but it's okay.
It's so important. And I think God's definitely using you for a reason,
Yeah.
Because you've definitely got something to give these young people. And I think what you mentioned about, for example, when perpetrators say that, the child didn't hear it, so therefore they didn't experience it. That's also a response from survivors as well, And I think the way that we minimize when you're in that situation is for survival, I know that it sounds weird to even say this, but I can speak from my own experience. To sit with the pain of knowing that my children are being impacted by domestic abuse at that time was too painful to even think about. I think most people will know, whether they admit to it or not, that there's a significant impact regardless of where that child is, because even if your child is at school, remember, most of our communication is non-verbal. So they will pick up on your energy, they'll pick up on your body language. Yeah, I remember my big son used to come home and he knew something had happened. He's been at school the whole day.
Yeah, there's an atmosphere, isn't there?
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a tension.
Yeah,
there's a,
exactly.
you know, yeah.
Yeah. And I think something about your work, which is a lot of young people who are part of, whether it's, you know, they're involved in serious youth violence or other forms. If you look down their timeline, they would have had exposure to domestic abuse.
Definitely.
And this is, but I think sometimes services want to separate these experiences. And that's another reason why I'm passionate about it as well. And I'm not just passionate about, I know like Strength of a Woman is about empowering women and girls, but I'm really passionate about young men as well, and ensuring that we provide spaces for young men to be challenged and also for them to have the skills to be allies in their community and to be able to challenge their peers, you know. And sometimes, like my son said to me the other day, a couple of months ago, he saw a woman and she looked scared and he went up to the woman. I don't want my son exposing himself to that type of risk, but there's things that we can prepare our young people for without actually putting themselves in serious situations. And I think we do that through ensuring that we create these safe spaces and that we, you know, challenge the behaviours and we challenge the language that they use amongst each other, in the hope that they will get something from that.
Definitely.
And we're educating that one person, but there will be a ripple effect on the back of that.
Yeah. And I think the thing that I enjoy more is working with the young people. So I did a lot of going into schools, and like healthy relationships is something that I'm really passionate about.
Too, yeah.
Because I don't want to, you know what it is why I don't want to always hear about trauma. And I think I have vicarious trauma from the work that I've done.
Yeah, of course.
So that when I say I don't enjoy it it's because
the impact.
It really has impacted me over the years. But when you go into the schools, I love young people anyway, but when you go into schools, there's just an energy in schools anyway. They're cheeky, they're, you know, they don't want to, who's this person coming into my school? But healthy relationships, I don't know if we're having enough of those conversations of what does a healthy relationship look like?
Definitely.
The TV portrays all the negative, this abuse, this. But what does a healthy relationship look like? I miss Cosby Show and, do you know, like Martin, like different things that I watched. The Cosby Show was like oh my God, I wanted to be Rudy. I was Rudy. That was me. But it was because they were in a loving family with a mum and a dad who clearly loved each other. Do you know what I mean? And that to me was my a positive representation of a healthy relationship. And to me, I don't know, I can't really think of many of those examples anymore. But yeah, that's what I like, as I said, I'm wearing my jumper. I want to leave hope in this world.
Definitely.
I want to sprinkle hope. I don't want to just deal with trauma and, you know, the negative side of things. I want to bring the other side. And that's why I really wanted to speak to you, because this is what I see from you, that you're not staying in this place. It's like, okay, what can I do to better and to bring hope to other people? And you give somebody, one of the lady that I was speaking to yesterday was talking about her freedom. And when she said that word, I could hear it. Like the peace and the freedom that she has is like what
I know.
You know, and I just that's the bit. The other side of it is where I'm the healing and that. I think I've done this part and now I'm ready to go on to the other side now. So I'm glad that you have been able to walk in your purpose, and that even though something so traumatic happened that you didn't let it stop you.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, it's still, we know the healing journey is long. You know, for me, it's lifelong. And this work is hard. It's not, you know, it's hard. And, you know, I have a lot of empathy and I've lived it. So, you know, I really do feel the pain of survivors. I do. So I work in Islington Children's Services on a domestic abuse recovery program called the Sunflower Project. And we do recovery programs for women and children and young people. So it was just primary school and secondary school. But most recently, we did a pilot program for early years.
Oh, wow.
So what schools identified is that a lot of younger children from reception up didn't meet the threshold for interventions, but they were acting out, you know, with their behaviours, maybe not had the words to articulate what they're feeling or what they have experienced, but it was coming out in their behaviour. And yeah, I feel like we've done about 3 or 4 early years groups, and a lot of it is, you know, done through play, but we do talk about domestic abuse and we role play, and it really touches me because children from 4 years old, 5 years old just have so much knowledge and insight to what they've experienced as a family, and just thinking about their coping mechanisms, you know, having to wear ear defenders or hide in a tent when their mum's being abused. And I am passionate about prevention. I don't want anybody to experience abuse. But I think also the other side for me, having these small innocent children and knowing that the work that I'm doing is not life-changing, it's just the start of a journey for them.
Life-changing. What are you talking about?
I don't know if it is, you know,
I'm telling you that it is.
Thank you. But I feel that there's so much parts to that puzzle. I'm just one part, or me and my service are just one part of that puzzle. But I just, you know, the responses that I get from parents whose children have attended this program, and just knowing that I'm playing a role in the recovery of these small children, and that I think Islington are really blessed because some of the services that Islington have, I've not seen other boroughs. They're really invested when it comes to violence against women and girls. And it's hard. Sometimes you just want to scoop up these little children and you just want to, obviously I can't hug them, and, you know, I can't do the things that I would want to in terms of being able to just say, you know, it's going to be okay. But yeah, I think it's so rewarding as well. Like, I just honestly feel so blessed it's heavy as well, but I feel blessed to know that I'm doing something to hopefully change their future.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know.
It is hard.
I do love the little people.
Yeah.
My husband calls me a baby whisperer. He says baby, but children just, I don't know, they just literally. That's how I started talking to women.
Yeah.
The little girl, her mum said to her, choose where and she sat directly in front of me, and that's how the conversation started. But I don't know. I think the beauty of purpose is that our purposes align sometimes.
Definitely.
Or hopefully other services can hear this and they can learn from Islington and that can be rolled out. There's 32 boroughs in London. It shouldn't be, because I live in Islington that I get to have these. Yeah. That should be a service that is available to everybody. Definitely. Do you know what I mean? So that's the kind of, that's life-changing.
Yeah.
You know, these, I think, ripples then
definitely
impacts and make it bigger and bigger. So what I remember going to a wedding years and years ago, and a lady, I really don't like having conversations about what I do. But it was a lovely lady, and she was like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I said I'm just a probation officer." And she was like, "No, you're not. You are a world changer." And I was like, "Oh my goodness. All right, I'll take that." So we're
have to own it. Yeah, we're doing the work.
we're doing the work.
And it is
It
very
is life
impactful.
changing.
Yeah.
That could impact that young person who's 4 that then goes on.
Definitely.
You don't know what that's going to do.
Yeah.
And we don't see, when you plant seeds with,
that's the thing. I
with
always
work
say that
like
you're
this,
never going to see it grow.
you don't see.
Yeah.
And it's called sunflower as well.
Yeah.
Ironically. So you said what purpose means to you. I think you've kind of alluded to the next question about what your purpose is. But can you maybe...
I think, again, my purpose is, I don't want to use the word save, but actually it is to save. It's to prevent. It's to prevent harm. It's to prevent trauma. And I think, because even my children, sometimes they say, isn't this work too much for you? Or, I guess they're mindful of me having that lived experience and that trauma, and then, being triggered, or at times, my eldest son's really, really protective over me. And if something was to escalate, and how that would impact me. So I think another part of my purpose is, my children. I think without their strength as well, and being able to, so I think a lot of the conversations that I have with young people going into schools, I have those conversations with my children, and for them to be at a space where I'm really accountable. I can't be accountable for the perpetrator's behavior, but for staying in that relationship and acknowledging the impact, particularly because I'm a child that experienced it in my household as a child. Yeah. And unfortunately, I didn't have a mother that was emotionally present for different reasons to be able to acknowledge my trauma.
Okay.
So I think it's unfortunate that cycle's repeated, but there has been a lot of learning from experiencing that as a child, and a response from my mum to ensure that I'm not given the same response, because I know what the impact can be, as a child. So I think they're a huge part of my purpose, because I'm really inspired by their strength, their resilience. For example, my eldest son, he always says to me when we have conversations about what we've been through as a family, and, he talks about times where he wanted to just get up and kind of protect me and save me. Wow. But then he also says that knowing that I've experienced that and seeing a man model that behavior, it's taught him about the type of man that he doesn't want to be. And I just think that's so powerful.
It is really powerful.
Yeah, and I think, I just get huge strength from my children, and I'm really, really inspired. So I think my purpose is really interlinked, but it started with my children, if I'm honest, their strength and the way they found it difficult, of course, because they've gone through significant trauma, and also seeing me in my recovery and the impacts, because you're never going to be the same person that you was, before. But they've just been so brave, and I think one of the things for me as well that I've always tried to provide a safe space for them to talk about and express their feelings, and I always want them to know the truth about their journey, but never. I'm just really mindful of the way I communicate that to them, and I always want them to feel that even though that's their dad, that they can still be open and honest with me about, their true feelings. And I think that's really helped them in sense of their resilience, and, trusting that even though mum's gone through this and she has her own feelings towards my dad, that she's not using that, to be insensitive towards us. Because I always say that I'm an adult And yes, I've been through trauma. And yes, at times I'm angry and I want to shout and, you know, I want to say things that are not appropriate about their dad, but that's going to be harmful to them and that's detrimental. And they never asked to be brought into this world and have those life experiences. And it's unfortunate they did. And I think it's really important, it has been really important for me to ensure that I'm just like really sensitive to their needs and have an understanding of, you know, the conflicted feelings that they may feel. So yeah, I've gone a long way around, but yeah, just really, they have really helped with my purpose. And I think also when I started off doing this work, they've just really supported me. Yeah, they've just really, really rooted for me, my children, you know, and really express, not being frightened to express like how proud they are, but also acknowledge how difficult it can be as well. So yeah, for me, my purpose is my children most importantly. And I guess some of it's also to do with the women who don't have those voices. Yeah.
Being a voice.
Yeah, being a voice. And I think
for the voiceless.
Yeah. Being a voice for the voiceless is so important to me. And, you know, there's times that I don't want to be that voice, if I'm honest, not necessarily for survival. I'm generally that voice in all circumstances, you know, whether it's in a school or a college. You know, I was talking about a young person not being able to get on the bus because he never had his Oyster card. And we don't know why that young person and what could be the result if he doesn't get on that bus. You know, and I always say I'm not just a parent to my children, I'm a parent to every young person. So I paid for him and the bus driver still gave me, you know, attitude.
Really?
Yeah, it happens a lot with me. And I said to him, I'm not sure what the problem is, you know, but this young person, I'm paying for him. I don't want him walking the streets. It's late at night, you know, so I always try to play my part, but it's draining sometimes, you know, but I think about the people who don't have a voice in our community and just sometimes if I'm being that voice, it may cause the other person to think the next time they're responding with somebody that doesn't have a voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could start going into one about these bus drivers, but the thing is, just young people are free to get on the bus. So what is it going to harm you? Like,
that's what I don't
the amount
understand.
of times that my children have lost their Oyster card. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I'm not going to get it. And it's just getting more because it's £15 now.
Yeah, I know.
That's like, ooh. Do you know what I mean? So every time they lose it, but is it going to harm you?
Exactly.
To let that young person go on the bus?
Exactly.
Anyway, we're not going to go into that. What is his purpose? We don't know. To antagonize people. How did you know that it was your purpose to empower, to educate, to be an emotionally intelligent mum?
Oh, that's a big question. I don't think I know. I think it's something that's grown on me through experiences. And I think particularly my experience around domestic abuse, even though I was so socially isolated, so there was moments where I couldn't have relationships with my friends, even my family. But I think that there have been friends who have held me in their heart and mind. And no matter whether it was a year, 2 years past, they would always be there.
Nice.
And
those are good friends.
Yeah, particularly one of my friends. I always say that she didn't realize how much seed she planted. And I guess for her, she found it difficult. She must have found it difficult at times. I know she did. And probably never saw a way out for me. But by her planting a seed and me knowing that I could always go to her, internally, it gave me the strength. Like I was building up strength over the years, even though people could not see that strength. So I think for me, it's about, I've had people in my life, even if they couldn't physically be next to me in that journey, I know that there's been people that have really showed up for me, whether it's physically or emotionally or even spiritually. And I want to be that person. Like, obviously I can't save the world and I can't, show up for everybody. But yeah, that's what my purpose is just really, doing my best to do, even if it's a small bit, to be able to empower others. And I think how I found that is, unfortunately, it's been through pain, it's been through trauma. And as I said, I've been born into trauma, so it's not just I've experienced this one relationship, it's been throughout my whole life. And I think I've had not necessarily always biological family, but I've had a village that has always shown up for me. And I guess my purpose is being part of that village to show up for other people who have experienced some of it, who's experiencing trauma, or just really empowering others and being a voice and and just showing them they're not alone. Because I think not just domestic abuse, lots of experiences in life, even though so many people that experience similar things, it's just so isolating and so lonely. And at the time you feel like you're the only person going through it. And I just want to constantly remind people, remind my community that we're all in this together. We all have, and I always say this to young people, is that I'll just share something really quickly with you. When I was stabbed, it was outside my university, and I managed to escape into the entrance, and there was a young girl by my side. She would have been 15 at the time, and she was constantly talking to me to reassure me. She didn't have to do that, and she would have seen my raw injury, so that must have been really, really traumatic for her. And what I found out later is she was walking home from school, and she was with a couple of other young boys, and they saw my perpetrator running down the road with my handbag. They didn't actually see the incident, but they thought I'd been robbed. Okay. So they had chased this perpetrator down the road to try and get back my bag. So you've got this young lady that's sitting by my side, making sure that I'm alert and that I don't go unconscious, and constantly talking to me and reassuring me. And these two young men are trying to chase down the perpetrator, which is really dangerous. Yeah. And what I didn't realize at the time was the next day, my same friend actually, who supported me through DV, her son had gone to school, and I think they were doing something around first aid. And those young people, unknown to me, went to the same school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they said they witnessed something traumatic. Well, the girl said she witnessed something traumatic and she didn't want to be part of the session. And then he questioned, he said, I think you're talking about my auntie.
Oh,
so,
my goodness.
Yes, I know. It's just, even like thinking about it makes me feel emotional. So I believe she was sent to me for a reason, God sent her for a reason. And I think about her a lot, actually, because, I've never been able to thank her. And I can only imagine that seeing the injuries that I sustained probably is still with her today. And that was like 8 years ago. But my whole point in sharing this is that domestic abuse doesn't just impact family and friends. It's everybody's business, and we all have a responsibility. Yeah. And that's just an example. They were walking home innocently from school, and they would have been traumatized as a result. putting themselves in risk,
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
unknown to them what the risk potentially could be. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
I don't know what to say. I'm just like, I just can't imagine being 15 and
I know.
so brave
Yeah,
that you
so
would,
brave,
but
so
that says a
brave.
lot about that young woman.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we know that she's
yeah.
doing well.
Mm,
And you know what? I know that you will meet her one day.
yeah, I have tried to like go through the police, and I think at the time she obviously was a witness, and
Hmm.
rightly so. Her mum didn't want her
Yeah.
to be part of it,
But
and
she wouldn't have been named
yeah,
anyway because she's under 16, so that
yeah,
her statement wouldn't show anything.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So,
So
but I would, yeah, I would love to come in contact. Yeah, it's been on my
I'm
heart a
telling
lot.
you, the way that this
World
world
works, yeah.
is, and also I just think that I don't know. I just think it's just
Mm,
whatever's supposed to be will happen,
yeah,
and it will be at the right time as well.
definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Um. So, what steps have you taken to walk in your purpose? So, before, I'm thinking about young Tanya when you was at school. Was there something that was you like an advocate for?
No, I wasn't
No,
actually.
was you one of those people that stood up for everybody and?
I was really shy in school because of my trauma that I experienced. I was really shy and had a lot of self-confidence, low self-confidence, sorry.
Mhm.
And I didn't really have a voice. I think as I got older, obviously not in my last relationship, I didn't have a voice, but prior to that, I was quite vocal.
Mhm.
And I felt like I didn't always necessarily have adults that could advocate for me in the right way.
Okay.
So very early on, you have to learn to advocate for yourself. Um, but one thing so my background is childcare. So yeah, so I worked in childcare from the age of 17, and left when I was about 21. So it's interesting that I'm talking about early years because it's just like a full circle for me, because I started with early years, and I would never imagine that I'm using domestic abuse to now work in early years again. So yeah, so I guess young Tanya didn't really have a voice, if I'm honest, was very, very shy. Also had a lot of, I went to boarding school. I had a lot of anger and resentment because I felt like I was that child that was kind of pushed away. Um, and yeah, I mean, I went to a boarding school that wasn't really diverse. I had an amazing experience, and it was my safe haven. Like, reflecting on it, it was a really positive experience because I was able to escape a lot of difficult things that were happening at home. But yeah, young Tanya didn't really have purpose. I think young Tanya was just surviving. Yeah, just surviving. A lot of pain in her head and heart, and nowhere to release that. But I think, as I got older, I left home at a really young age when I was 17. And I think that's when I started to find my purpose. I started to find that I was really passionate about children. And then I met actually my eldest son's godmother, who gave me an opportunity to work in a nursery, a Montessori nursery. And I think that's where I started. And it's interesting, if I hadn't experienced domestic abuse, we wouldn't be having this conversation, I'm sure. And I would never imagine that I'm doing work to advocate for women and children around domestic abuse. Because even though I experienced it as a child, it's very much put in a box.
Yes.
So I didn't really understand it.
A very different
Yeah,
time though, wasn't it?
exactly. Yeah, it was a very, very different time.
Very quiet,
yeah.
very like people didn't,
Yeah.
As I was talking, they don't talk their business. It's kind of like behind closed
Yeah,
doors. This is what
definitely.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I just find that amazing that you started with children and that you're
I'm
doing
back
this
there.
really
Yeah.
powerful
Yeah.
work with
Yeah.
early years.
Yeah. And it's interesting because my manager said to me, and what's interesting as well, my manager is the professional that gave me the opportunity to go into schools with her and share my story as a volunteer.
Okay.
And I think 4 or 5 years later, I started working with her, but she said she always had the vision that I was going to work with her. She always wanted to find a way for me to work with her. So I think that's really powerful because I feel like she's been an important part of my journey because she's been there from the start.
And she's probably saw things in you
Yeah,
that
definitely.
you wasn't
Yeah.
able to see at
Yeah,
that time.
exactly. Exactly.
But it's something really positive and powerful about having people who believe in you when you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's a necessity. I've definitely, I can't remember how many guests ago, but a good friend of mine, Abdul, when I met him, was at a really just not a great time of my life, and yeah, he had this belief in me.
Oh, that's so
He
beautiful.
saw something in me that at that time I just couldn't see.
Yeah, in
And
yourself,
those people, you don't ever forget them, you know.
Never forget them. And I think those people, even now, you know, I have moments where I'm like, what am I doing? Where am I going with this?
Is
You
it?
know?
Oh, I thought it was just me.
No, we all have them. But I have amazing some I've only met as a result of this journey. But equally, I've just got so much gratitude and love for them because they really show up, and it's that belief, like cheering for you sometimes when you don't even have the capacity to cheer for yourself.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That one hit definitely resonates with me. Yeah. So, a journey that is, I don't know, man. I listened to, and I think I watched too many things that I shouldn't probably watch. Like just documentaries and I'm trying to think of what the really good one was called on Netflix, and it was like a series of a young woman. Oh my gosh, my memory is.
Wasn't about abuse, was it?
Yes. Was it Made?
Made, I watched that as well.
Oh, it was, I had the name, and my goodness.
Yes, it's so powerful.
Oh my good. And I don't know why I watch these things, and every time I go on Netflix, I say, I just want to watch something that's just going to make me laugh. And then I end up watching these deep things. But the portray, I don't know, they just give me hope. And that, for me, if we can give people hope.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there's somebody out there who's watching this who might still be in this situation. The lady I spoke to yesterday was talking about, it's like she had this, not anger, but upset with herself for not getting out. So I said, can I just tell you that you're courageous and you're brave, and that the risk to you when you leave that relationship is so high. And it's not a risk of violence, it's a risk of death. It's so like the I don't know the statistic off my top of my head, but I know that it's really high when you leave a relationship. And I was like, don't get angry with yourself that you stay, but what have I said, what have I demonstrated to my kids? I said, you've demonstrated courage, you've demonstrated strength, you've demonstrated resilience. I could give you so many words of what you have demonstrated. So you did what you had to do. And the fact that you're here on the other side and you're speaking and you're asking questions and thinking about how you can support your children to get their intervention that they need. And I'm an advocate for therapy. I'm always telling everybody you need therapy. I told the woman yesterday, and she looked at me and I was like, I don't mean it to offend you. It's not me saying you've got issues.
Yeah.
It's because I've had therapy and it's the best thing I've ever had.
Gosh, me too.
And if I've, your curls look wicked, like your curls are popping today. Tell me what you use in your hair. Why do we not share these things?
Definitely.
You want to know where the jumper comes from. I'm going to tell you where the jumper. I think actually I could plug the lady because she's a lovely woman. I bought this jumper a long time ago. Her company is called Make Me Available.
Oh, wow.
And she is a Christian lady who sells T-shirts and different things. And she does blogs. And
is she still selling?
I believe so.
Okay, I have to have a look.
I will, if I'm going to look online
and let me know.
And then I'll also put it in the little bio of our thing because when I feel like I usually wear the jumper on a Monday.
Yeah, one of those days,
I need the hope for myself. And you know what? I was doing a video link with one of the clients in the week. And I never wear this in the weekdays. I usually wear it on a Monday. And he was talking about trying to break his cycle of using substances. And I said, there's hope. And then I just, because he couldn't see, because it's just this kind of, and I put the screen and he saw it and he was just like, oh my goodness. So we can speak in lots of different ways. But I do think that you bring hope. You bring so much hope. That's all I see when I hear you, when you speak about your story. But what advice would you give to someone who is trying to find their purpose?
I think, I know it's hard, but believe in it, and I think believing in it is a journey in itself, and it takes time, but believe in it and just try to, when I think about my purpose, I think about what is it that I want to give somebody else?
Yes.
What do I want that I may never had previously, or whether it's, like going through a difficult experience in my life and all of the things that you just described, hope. I want them to feel strong or to get strength out of my purpose, So I think it's about thinking about trying to, even though it's through my lived experience, why I've shaped this purpose. It's about what is it that I want my purpose, what outcome do I want them to, the other person to have who may be getting something from my purpose. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
Do you know what I was going to say? Because I didn't want to interrupt you, but I always think about being the person that I needed at the particular time that I needed them. So the reason, when God was telling me about doing this thing, it's not, I had been on my kind of journey of looking for purpose. I'd read the book, Purpose Driven Life, which is why we've kind of... it's like an honour to that book and Rick Warren, really, because that was so powerful for me. And the thing is, I was saying, one of my children asked me, oh, Mummy, how long have you been a provider? And I was like, 21 years. And I was like, oh my gosh. But even though I've been doing that for such a long time, there's been moments in that work that I still think, oh my gosh, what is my purpose?
Yeah, definitely.
I have to reevaluate because I'm like, is purpose supposed to feel like this? Does it supposed to feel hard and like I need to have a session of therapy after I've done the work? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Does other people, I wonder every day, like, do other people feel like that when they come home from work, that they need to just have a whole release of emotions and, the stories that for 21 years, I've been hearing people's stories.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of stories.
And it takes a toll on you, doesn't it, as well?
That's
when you're
why I wear my jumper, because I need the hope. Because in a system where there's a cycle of people just going back and back and back, committing the same things or being in and out of prison, using substances for years and years and years, there's not a lot of hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I need the light in the darkness.
Definitely.
Yeah. But I definitely think you are like a light shining in this forum of, like, I feel like it's a bit of a buzzword for, like, you know what I mean, government, and they're like shining a light on VAWG, and because that acronym wasn't even existing a couple of years ago. Do you know what I mean? But now it's a big agenda. And sometimes I get a little bit annoyed because they just choose the thing to put the spotlight on, and then it will go, and then they'll put it somewhere else.
Or it's diluted.
Whereas this is actually your life. This is something that you've experienced, and this is, you're bringing something into the forefront for people that sometimes are not, they're completely clueless.
Yeah. It's so detached from their realities.
Yes. So I thank you for doing that, sharing that light, bringing the light to these little babies, not just the little babies, even the teenagers are babies at heart.
They are, they really are.
They really are, especially ones who've experienced trauma as well.
Yeah.
But then showing them that there's life after.
And I think that's one of the things that I really emphasize when I don't share my story as much, but when I do, for me, I think one of the things for me, even with my own children, was about, we will always go through an obstacle in life. Do you understand? Mine's domestic abuse, but there's so many different obstacles a person can go through. And I think, and what I use as an example is, my ex-partner tried to kill me. That was his intention, right? And he knew I was at university, I was in the second year of my degree. And what he was trying to do was, he no longer had power and control of my life that he had for so many years. So he's trying to take everything away from me that I've built, my education being one of them. So after, he was arrested, rightly so, my family and friends were, because they knew what his actions were, they didn't want me to return back to my university. But I'm a soldier, I'm quite stubborn as well. And for me, he did the worst, almost one of the worst things that he could have. But he never took my life. God never gave him that option to take my life, and I'm not going to give him power by not achieving what I set out to do. So yes, it was really traumatic because I'm going back to the same building where my stabbing happened, right outside. But one of the things that I'm really passionate about when I speak to young people about my story is about the determination, having that inner strength, that inner fight that, yes, I experienced this, but this is not going to be the end.
Yes, that's what I love.
Yeah.
And I get that.
Yeah.
I feel that, and that's why it was so important. One of the things that I love, and in faith, it's like victory and being an overcomer.
Absolutely.
The Bible is full of overcomers. The stories of these people who went through some stuff, You think the Bible ain't got domestic abuse in it? It's
True.
it's a whole, as I like to say, Pastor, there's so much drama in there, but it gives hope, and it gives a thing of like, okay, this happened, but that's not the end of your story.
Right.
And that's what I love, is that, and this is what this forum is about. I don't want to necessarily hear what the trauma was, but what you did. You look at the amazing things that you've done since. You didn't have a full stop, you had a comma or a semicolon and said, okay, I'm going to keep. I love, that is what I love the most.
Yeah, and I think it's so important, because I think it's so easy to get stuck in the dark. Yes. When I was stabbed, I couldn't even see that I would return back to education. I'm like, how am I going to, I was stabbed in my face, so I had these insecurities about, I've had surgery, I've got these big scars, but you have to fight through that. Doesn't mean it's not going to impact you. Doesn't mean that, you're not going to have days where some days I wake up and I feel like, I'm not worthy, or, but you have to fight through those feelings. And I think for example, when everybody was on break from uni and they'd finished all their exams, I had to work for all the summer because there was no way I was redoing that year. Alongside that, I was trying to be moved, plus going through therapy, plus I was going through a trial.
Plus you're raising children.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So, but I was like, I remember I returned back to my house where I was living, and all my trauma happened. A lot of my trauma happened in the kitchen or in the basement, which my bedroom was in. And I remember I slept on my sofa for weeks, for months. There was two things that I was determined. I was determined that I was going to move and that I was going to complete. I don't know how I completed those assignments because I wasn't even sleeping, but I think I've always had this from a very young age. Just this inner fight, inside to, first of all, for me, it was about not giving him any more power.
Yes.
Even though he wouldn't be aware of my journey, but not completing university is like, to me, he's won.
Yeah.
Because that's something that he was trying to prevent me from doing. Wow. So for me, it's this constant. And even now, when I do certain things, and I'm not really a fan of like being in the media, but there has been times where, when I was co-chair for Islington's VAWG strategy board, that, I've had articles and I wonder, is he in prison? He can get a copy of that newspaper and stuff. And probably, I don't really, I'm not too bothered about what he thinks, but I'm sure deep in his mind, he thinks I'm out here wasting times talking about him, but he is no longer. I don't have hate. So I'm working on this journey of forgiveness.
Yeah. And that's a long, forgiveness is not.
Yeah.
And I think forgiveness is hard for even the smallest of things.
Definitely.
Let alone something that is psychologically, emotionally, mentally, like every harm that it's caused physically. Do you know what I mean? So, and it's beautiful that, because there's a lot of people that will never,
but
or could
the forgiveness is not for him.
It's for you.
It's for myself.
It's release. Yeah,
exactly.
It's freedom.
Definitely, definitely. But it's a journey, as you said, and it's not hard. It's a very painful journey. But I don't want to be here in years 3, 5, 10, however much years, where he still has some kind of hold, without him being consciously aware of that over me, because I'm still giving him that power. So yeah.
Listen, the fact that you have kept on going, you wake up every day, and that's all you got to keep doing.
Definitely.
Take it day by day.
Yeah, one day at a time.
One day at a time.
Yeah.
And sometimes that, today wasn't a great day. But if you can, it's like sometimes things happen so today, my whole drama. So as I'm going to pick up my daughter from the hospital, I had to go round because I couldn't find a space, and went round the second time, and then a bus clipped a car. So the bus is trying to turn the corner and it's clipped a car. The car stopped, the driver stopped the car right where the thing is, in the middle of the road. And remember, the bus is turning, so no traffic can go that way, that no traffic can move. The driver got out and started filming he obviously wants it for his insurance or whatever, filming the bus. But his car was in the middle of the thing.
Blocking everything.
And I thought, you know what? I'm in a hurry. I need to get here. And what do I do? Am I going to let this whole thing upset my day? or someone cuss you in the morning, like the bus driver. Are you going to hold on? Oh, I've had a bad day. I'm not holding on to that. I'm like, that little thing happened. You know what I did? I don't even know how I did a 3-point turn because I was there's a pedestrian cut, but I did so many turns to turn, and I went back round and I said, God, you know what I've got. I'm trying to get to this on time. I need to pick her up. She's been in the hospital all day. She's hungry. Please send me a space. And I'm not even joking you. The same road that I'd just gone past,
there was a space.
The space was just there. And I said, thank you, God. And I just went about my day, and I just thought, you know what? Sometimes the devil is trying to
definitely
stop us from doing all these things, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just by perseverance. That's the thing that that's the word that I think of with you. You just keep going.
Yeah.
You persevere, you're resilient, you're powerful, you're strong. There's so many. I'm going to give you some affirmation cards.
Oh, thank you.
Those are my things when we're not feeling like those things. That's why I made them, because there was a time when I was just like, I don't feel strong. I don't feel powerful. I don't feel victorious. But if I keep telling myself that I am, that's what I'm going to become. So that's why I made, and I actually have.
And I meant to bring a picture of it. Oh my gosh.
And you know what I did? I've just changed my bag, and I'm like, have I even got the things? I think I've changed my handbag.
Never mind.
Don't worry, I'm going to send them to you. I'm going to see you tomorrow.
Yes, I'm
going to see you tomorrow.
Something for you as well.
Good. So keep persevering.
Yes.
Keep sharing your light, not your story. Because you know what? There's going to be a point where you don't need to say that anymore.
Kind of going through that point at the moment, if I'm honest,
And I said that to you before.
You did.
I'm not here because I don't want you to come and share your story unless you want to, but you don't need to. This part of your journey is about the overcoming.
Definitely.
It's about, I just want to hear the bit after. I don't want to hear the bit before.
And it's so interesting you say that, because I quite often feel like that sometimes people do want to hear, they want to hear the really horrific stuff. But I think what people don't understand is that the journey, life after abuse, is a whole different journey in itself, and can be a really difficult journey actually, because to some extent you become so dependent upon this relationship, even though you know that it's not healthy. And then you're almost like it's like a rebirth, like you're finding yourself again from scratch. So I think for me, there has been times where I feel like, I need to let somebody know that I've experienced this. But I think, particularly because I'm doing the work that I'm doing and I have the knowledge, don't always feel like I have the light, but sometimes I do feel like I have the light. So it doesn't have to be about, and it's not about me. My purpose, yes, it's it's being birthed from a result of what I've experienced. But as I said before, my purpose is bigger than me.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that I always have to delve into my own story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? What I feel and what I see is that sometimes our trauma can become our identity. So this story, this thing that happened to you has become part of you.
Yeah, yeah.
But I actually separate it.
Yeah.
Because you are an amazing woman. You're an amazing mum. There's things as a mum that you are teaching me, like, having comments. That is a blessing in itself. That who you are is more important than what's happened to you.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And on my journey of, because listen, this journey, whatever's happened in our lives, all of us are on a journey.
Definitely.
Yeah, some of us you need a bit of healing, or there's things that has happened, or you're bitter, or you're angry about something that you need to heal about. But it's, for me, I'm just trying to master myself and understand myself on a deep level. I want to understand and know and love myself like how God loves me and how he sees me. And you know what? That's been the beauty in my healing is God sees me as the most amazing woman. Like, and when I was like, really? Oh my God, that's what he thinks about me. And then I was like, okay, he made me, so he's going to think he's amazing. We think our kids are amazing, isn't it? We made them and we think, we can think, like not think about the things that annoy us but God has made me into this woman, and it's like, oh my goodness, I'm going to see myself in the way that he sees me. And
So
since
powerful.
I've started to do that, oh my gosh, the way that
Transformation.
It is a transformation. There's still days when you're just beating
It's a
yourself
journey,
up
isn't it?
or whatever,
Yeah.
but that has been a freedom in itself. I don't need to be a probation officer. I don't need to be somebody's mum. I don't need to be any of these things.
Yeah.
I'm just me and how he created me and walking into that original design of me, not who got like the world told me I needed to be. Oh, you've got to dye your hair because you've got grey hair. I'm still working on that. But,
Me too.
I keep it real. It's like someone said to me, oh, your eyebrows are lovely. I said, listen, if I do this, there will be no eyebrows. I don't have eyebrows. And she was like, really? But I'm okay with it. Like,
Of course.
I remember when I couldn't come out of my house, my sister used to say, if I see you without eyebrows, something's wrong. Like, that's how we used to be, because it was like, I was so insecure about it. I don't care. Obviously, I put them on every day because I think it looks better. But generally,
that's beautiful. That
do you know what I mean? But it's about getting to that place. And there will be a time when I do stop dyeing the hair. I don't know when that's going to be. Maybe when I'm 70, but I don't know. But yeah, I really want to encourage you to see yourself how God sees you.
Amen. Yeah.
That's what the ultimate goal is. And sometimes it's like I spend time today. I was feeling really like I'm worried. My daughter's going under anesthetic. I didn't want her to have the anesthetic, the general anesthetic. Anyway, they decided. And then I was like driving. Today was like a no music day. And I went to phone someone and I was like, no, let me just talk to my dad. And I literally, Dad, this is how I'm feeling. She's going to have this. And then he's like, I got you. I got her. Like, come on. Why are you worrying about these things? This, I know I sound like a crazy person, but this is what helps me on a day-to-day basis. And I ask him, Dad, I've been doing this. I've been doing these events. I've been doing all these different things. What do you want me to do? And this is the consistent thing that he keeps coming up with, the podcast. I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep doing it.
That's brilliant.
So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I will.
And you always have to question it and reevaluate, because there's going to be a time when you think, you know what? I've done my bit now. And that's how I feel about probation. That's why I said that I don't. Because I feel like I've done my share. I've got the knowledge and the experience, and I'm willing to like help people with the things that I know. I remember one of my friends left an abusive relationship, and I kind of knew that it was that way, but until she had recognised I'll be there, but I just have to be, respectful and whatever. Anyway, and she was attending like a survivors group. And she said, can you come and speak at the group?
Oh, amazing.
And I was like, what am I going to speak about? And then she was like, the women have got, their ex-partners may be on probation, or they may have gone through the criminal justice system that they don't really understand. Can you come and give?
That's amazing.
And I was like, I don't know if I could do that, because they're going to be like, oh, they might think I'm on their side, or no, I'm not on anybody's side. I'm there to challenge and to, but I did go. I've been a couple of times.
That's amazing.
And that has been really powerful.
That's so good.
So what I'm thinking of is that there's lots inside here. There's lots of, but then it's just doing it in a different way.
Yeah, definitely.
So that I'm not directly doing that face
I can imagine that is so powerful. I mean,
Yeah, all of those. We've even had conversations.
conversations
There's questions
about
that you might have had, and
I know other survivors who have had similar, ex-partners, and it's kind of like you're thrown in the deep end, not knowing. So I can imagine how reassuring, because I think it's the unknown, not knowing what to expect, and just to have those questions answered. You've even given me a food for thought.
So anyway, my thing is that, we've all got resources, we've all got experience, we've all got knowledge, and I want to be able to use that to bless other people, so that's whatever.
Amazing. Yeah.
And if that is like strategy even, do you know what I mean? Okay, what does children's services, because I know that they do a domestic abuse program, what does that look like? Is that impacting?
We need to talk off camera.
There's so many things. But you are amazing.
Thank you so much.
I'm so glad that you came.
Yeah, I'm glad I came too.
I knew you would be fine afterwards, but and you know what? I really admire when you're feeling apprehensive about doing something, and that you still, there's something, you just got this thing inside you that is
it takes time. And I think, obviously, like, we've connected over, and like, I just see you're a woman of faith, and I've spoken to you about like some of my views about other platforms and, the way they care for survivors. And I just really get that from you, that you have a lot of empathy and care, genuine care, about the guests that you have on your show.
Listen.
Yeah. I can see that from your podcast, and then obviously connecting with you and getting to know you a little bit more. I really feel that. So I really, even though I had my own, should I do it? Should I do it? I felt like this was a safe space for me. Yeah.
I'm
and
glad.
That's really important,
I'm
for
glad.
me.
And that's important for me to have a safe space, even if we're not talking about things like this.
Yeah.
But I know there's been other people that have been like, oh no, I don't know if I want. And I said, look, one of the things with me, I'm here. This is not about me. This is not my platform to this is about glorifying God. And through your story, God is glorified because he kept you here.
Yeah, he saved me.
He wanted your purpose wasn't fulfilled. So that's why he had to keep you here, so that you can do all of this amazing work.
Definitely.
And it's to remind people that, there's hope, there's a way out, there's life after trauma, there's life after an abusive relationship, there's life, after almost death.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
But you just, thank you. That's all. I just have to keep saying it. And I know we will do, there's, you know what, every time God places someone really heavily on my heart, because there's people that I've asked that have said, I'm not sure, and I've kind of left it. But you have been one of those things that I've just like, I don't know why, it just keeps, but I know God has got something in store for us. So we will just trust him, and whatever it looks like, we're just ready for it, whatever the new assignment is. But thanks again.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. A real pleasure.
And we will just, we don't know the seeds that are planted through this conversation, or who you've given I don't know, that encouragement to leave.
To leave, yeah.
And we know it's not easy. I know it's not.
Definitely. Thank you.
But God bless on your journey. And I hope I'll see you tomorrow, really.
Definitely.
Take care.
All right, take
everybody. Care. Thank you. This one was a deep one. I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting. But I kept saying, I don't want you to say your story. And even though you still shared it, which I'm grateful that you are able to share that.
Yeah. I think, my story, because I thought about this before. I know I'm going to share some of my story because it has played a huge role in what my purpose is. But I didn't want it to be solely focused on that. So I think it's been the right balance.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope to see you again next month with our last guest of 2024. And watch this space. Please share, like, subscribe. There's somebody who needs to see this that I might not have WhatsApped the link to. So please send it. And yeah, just keep walking into your purpose. And also for reference, the book is called The Purpose Driven Life, and it's by Rick Warren. For anybody who wants an extra resource, that was the thing that kind of inspired me and just literally changed my life. So yeah, we hope that you will look into that as well. God bless. See you. Take care. Bye bye.